Well, slurp-de-derp, my G's. I hope you're all doing great. Thanks for all your comments recently. Really, really appreciate all the support, and welcome to all of the new subscribers on the channel as well. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have a Patreon page where I often upload stuff, and I've just uploaded a new preset there, which is what we're going to be breaking down today, and this is the classy jungle pad. So I thought I'd make a nice, really nice jungle pad sound in phase plant. And if you want the preset, all you have to be is any paying member, so you can join for as little as €1 or $1 per month, and then you'll get access to loads of almost free presets at that point. But yeah, this one is up there, and if you want to support me on Patreon, it's very, very appreciated, and it helps me to continue doing what I do best, and that's making YouTube tutorials. Alright, so go ahead and grab yourself that. And here's what it sounds like, and I'm also going to actually break down the sound design for the patch as well. I've layered it up with a lovely little worm break, classic jungle break, and I've played a little chord progression here, a little melody, so let's have a listen. So really, really nice pad sound. I'm really happy with that one. And so, in case you couldn't tell, I created the chord within the patch, yeah. And so I've called it the minor jungle 9 class because it's a minor ninth chord. So all of the chords that you heard in the progression were all minor ninths, yeah, which is quite typical for jungle pads. You can have major as well, but ninth chords work quite nicely. And so yeah, let's break down the actual patch from start to finish, okay? And what I've done is I've used I've actually used samples for the whole thing because beg my pardon, this cough which won't go away. Yeah. I started using saw waves and filtering them, and square waves and filtering them, but I wasn't quite getting that natural sound that I really wanted. So I used actually a load of samples to create the pad, and they're samples that come with phase plant already. So it's not like I got them from somewhere else. They're ones that are already inside phase plant, you know. So it's actually the Dorpferheim PWM, pulse width modulation. So on the normal phase plant factory, you've got the simple sound, the analog, and then over here is the Dorpferheim PWM. So there's a lot of like analog synths that have been sort of re-recorded and resampled to use, and they just sound really, really nice and natural. And it already on its own, it has a nice detuning and like a bit of a an analog kind of noise signal on it as well, which makes it sound really natural. So I wanted to use that to create the pad, right? So here's how I did it then. Just other things to note, we've got the glide is turned up to about 300 milliseconds, just one voice, so you'll only play one note at a time. Yeah. So, and then I've just got one group with all of the Dorpferheim samples inside the one group, right? And we're going to build the chord now. So we've got a 0, so that's the root note. I'm playing this at E, but it doesn't really matter. It's still going to be the same chord, whatever you play. So I've just, copied over, added another sample section always, like this, and then I've had to select it every time until I had 5 in total. So I had 5 instances of the Dorpferheim PWM, right? So basically, cut a long story short, 0 for the root note, then we've got 3 semitones up, then we've got a 7 semitones up, and you'll see they're all a bit off, which I've done on purpose. But yeah, a 0, a 3, a 7, then a 10, and then a 14, right? And already we've got a lovely chord. So that's the basis for the whole sound. And that's a minor ninth chord. And I just knocked them all a little bit off so that they're quite even. There's already detuning happening, so you know it's already good. But yeah, just trying to make it a bit smoother by blending them all together with slight differences in the pitch. So just knocking a few cents off here and there in in the fine tuning, you know. Okay, and the next important thing that I've done, well, there's a lot of important things, but one of the main things is here, the envelope. So because it's all in the group, the envelope is controlling the whole lot at once, which is great. And so I've set the attack to be a medium, kind of like fairly, not like super slow, but not quick either. 238 milliseconds, straight line. Then I've got the decay at like 4.5 seconds. And no sustain, so it basically you touch it once and it'll go forever. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit more old school, that kind of way, you know. The release is up quite high as well, around 974 milliseconds, but yeah, I was you can adjust the shapes as well, so they're all kind of almost straight lines, slightly curved only. But I was playing it, you know, as a loop and adjusting the attack and the release, so I felt like the notes like flowed into each other nicely, and that's the settings that I ended up with. But now the main thing really to do to the pad is to add a low pass filter to it. So I've low pass filtered everything next here. Alright, you can hear it doesn't quite blend over so smoothly into the next note yet, and that's because it's sort of restarting the attack always. But what I did for the sound design is I put a lot of delay and reverb on, so it kind of blends itself over through the delays and the reverbs, right? So yeah, that was my preferred way of doing it to get the nice tonality that I wanted. So we can already add some filter movement now, because this LFO down here, it's a nice slow cosine, so it's kind of like a sine wave, but a bit more exponential curves on either side. Nice and slow movement. And if you right click down here on this little triangle, this little arrow, you can select note trigger, and I selected never. So every time the pad repeats, the LFO will just keep going, it won't restart, so it feels a bit more natural that way, you know. And so I basically just tracked the cutoff of the filter to this LFO, so the filter just opens and closes a bit on the LFO. So now next, let's sort out those, like the blending of the pad. So we've got to get it all to blend into itself, you know. So once we got that filter on, we're nice and happy, and now we can do the dual delay, right? So the dual delay, quite high, 320 milliseconds, a little bit of a tone boost, so it's a bit brighter. Nice long feedback around 65%, and then mix it in about 22%. Sounds really nice on its own when you turn the mix up, but I wanted to keep a bit of the main pad signal as well, you know. But at 22%, that already adds like so much extra feedbacks of the delays that it already smoothly blends into the next note every time. So that I could have stopped there really, you know. But the next effects are all adding more stereo interest and softening it a bit and just shaping the tone a bit more. So the next thing I did was add a comb filter, and I've talked about this before, how I love to use it in stereo mode to create really great extra stereo harmonics, because it gets a nice width, but unlike the Haas effect, it still sounds great in mono when you mix the stereo amount, because it's just inverting the phase of the certain frequency bands. and it's not using like a time delay, but it feels like things get wider. So I love to actually automate the the amount of like the frequency amount as well. It gets a great like stereo movement going. So I could turn this on already if I want to here. So this is my secondary movement, and this is just a randomizer. So I'm just randomly moving the frequency on the comb filter around a bit here. And when we're talking about the movement on the pad, this first LFO is only doing the filter opening and closing, and then the randomizer is just giving a bit of life into a number of different parameters, as you'll see in a moment. But next, the reverb gets turned on. So I like this reverb sometimes actually. But yeah, I end up using it about 15%, but it sounds quite nice higher up as well. Just turned the width up a little bit. Bit of chorus as well, or ensemble even. It's basically like a chorus, but I prefer the sound of this to the chorus usually. All the voices on, a bit of detuning, spreading it and mixing it around 20% again. And this one has got a bit of randomization on the mix as well. Now all of these effects here, they do add a slight bit of flavour and movement and character every time, but they are quite subtle because we've already got like quite a subtle sound, you know, so it's very subtle art form here. But yeah, next what I wanted to do, because I really loved it then already, I was kind of happy with it. I should quickly mention as well, the randomizer here, you can see the speed I've set it at is fairly slow, and I controlled how smooth it is down here. You know, so the smoothness is quite high, the chaos is around medium, and the jitter just a little bit. So it doesn't go too crazy in its changes, you know, because I actually had some white noise in a moment, and it was sort of giving you bursts of white noise that were quite jarring. So I smoothed out the randomization quite a lot. And similarly here, I right-clicked on this arrow, and I also select note trigger never, so it also doesn't restart when the new note happens in the MIDI, you know? Because I want the whole pad progression to feel like it's all part of the same movement and story, and I didn't want to have that unrealistic feeling of when things reset, when the new MIDI note resets. The only thing that resets is the kind of attack, you know, but all of the other things like keep moving. So yeah, it's quite nice and balanced. So next I wanted to add a bit of white noise in, like to the sound, just to give it like a, yeah, like a bit of an interesting texture on the high end. And I actually did that in two ways. So I used a bit of the ring mod with the bandpass noise, so adding that kind of digital noise into the sound, but only a very small amount, about 2%. But you do hear it, and it's sort that this is tracked to the randomizer here. So this is you'll get a little bit more white noise or a little bit less depending on the randomizer. So it's quite inaudible when it's low, but when it goes high you get a bit more. But yeah, it wasn't quite enough yet, so I also added some extra noise back here, back at the beginning. I added another noise generator here. And yeah, just a small amount here, just a few percent. I matched the attacks and the releases so that it kind of follows the samples, the sampled synths. And yeah, the stereo mode is up, and I've got a filter underneath the noise to just do the high passing. So otherwise it would be, you know, I just wanted that little sparkle in the top. And I've randomized the level of that as well a little bit, so it's also changing a little bit on how much noise there is. Okay. So you've really only got like 2 or 3% of noise on top of the sound. Like it really only adds a small amount of detail, but I just needed it in there still. The distortion next. So here I'm actually distorting fairly a lot for a pad, but it just warms everything up. Gives you a little bit more push in the mid-range, and also it gives giving like a warm character, you know, and also gives a little bit of more attention to the noise as well. But yeah, this made it feel like way more analog because it's kind of like distorting it, yeah, in just a warm way. Alright, and then next I just did a little bit of EQing. So I'd pushed the mid-range quite a lot to get the tonality, you know, but now I wanted to just reduce it a little bit because it's a bit boomy. Alright, so brought up the lows and the highs a bit and dipped the mids, and then I just did another little layer of boosting the highs again afterwards as well, at a slightly different area. Yeah, so you can mix it to taste. I've just ended up turning up some of the settings a little bit more. I wanted a little bit more reverb especially, but because I quite liked it the second time around, the effect of that. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the pad and how I designed it. And yeah, it sounds really, really nice, especially when you pair it like with a old school break like the worm break, you know. Let's move on to a tiny bit of post-processing before we finish. So yeah, to get extra bonus points for your homework, what you can do is use another tape saturation plugin, tape emulation. And so this is my favourite. I love this one, the OCS 45 free plugin, free to download from the Spectral plugins homepage. Don't buy the plugin individually. Go on the homepage and use the link there, and you can download it for free. Yeah, I love this one. Only problem is I choose a cool preset, and every time I reload it, it fails to remember which one it was. But it was the varied tremolo. I remember it. And you can see this adds a lovely wobble into the pitch of the whole patch, and it's quite extreme. But using the mix knob here, I can apply like 25% of that effect and it sounds great. Particularly useful if you mix the amount in while you're listening with your drums, because the harmonics change a bit and you can actually use it almost like a mixing tool to get like a nicer blend between the pad and your drums. Speaking of which, I added a quick little sidechain to my kick as well. I've done videos already on sidechaining many times using the multipass, but yeah, little kick sidechain and little side cut for the low end as well. That's basically it. But yeah, that's how you can make a lovely jungle pad using Faceplant. So I hope that was inspiring for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and that's it for this tutorial today. May I remind you as well, I have a bunch of Faceplant presets up on my website. They're mostly geared towards heavy basses and heavy leads and lots of experimental sounds, but there's often a bunch of pads inside each pack as well. Leads and arps and that kind of stuff, but I try to always include a few pads in my preset packs in Faceplant, and also in Vital, and also in Current as well. If you prefer those synths, or you want some presets for those synths, jump over to my website and check them out. Alright, one-on-one coaching is available as well, mentorship regarding music production, any area that you feel that you're weak in that I can improve you in, and it's often to be honest, just having one session with you, I can usually straight away tell you what you need to work on. You know, so it's yeah. If you just come at me with a session and show me some of your work, I have a good knack for just knowing what the next step is directly. You know, so the mentorship just is very natural. It's not like a cookie cutter program. You know, it's me and you and me going, this needs to change, this needs to happen, and giving you like the fast track to what you need for you. You know, so that's why that's the best thing that you can do to level up your music production. But you can also come along and join on Patreon in the Discord team, the Discord tier as well, if you like. This preset is on for all paying members. You don't have to be in the Discord, because the Discord tier is a bit higher priced. It's €10 a month or $10 a month or something like that. But that's where you can get feedback on your tracks from other members and be part of our community and have daily chats and just shoot the breeze and all that kind of stuff. So come along and join us on there. Finally, I also have mixing and mastering services as well available if you ever want to have more information about that, or you want to send me a track to let me decide if it's like good enough to master, because I won't just master anything. It has to be, you know, the mix down has to be clean to some degree, you know. But if you're not sure, then just send it over by email and I'll let you know if I think it's worth mastering it or not. But yeah, my email is down below. It's info@art1factmusic.com. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, my G's. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Or if you're the other 50% of people who watch the videos anyway and have done for ages but haven't been bothered to subscribe, then please subscribe. It really helps me out. And like the video as well. And I will see you guys very soon. Take care. Much love.